And I'm gonna share my screen. You can minimize it on your end, but I'm just gonna share it for the recording.
Okay.
All right, boom. We are recording.
Sweet.
King's Indian
Whoa.
Defense.
Somehow, like it automatically went full screen.
It does, yeah. So you just hit
But
escape and then you can
gotcha.
minimize it.
Okay, sweet. Nice.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I very rarely have students who record lessons, so it's actually good for me too. Like I enjoy having it to go back. And if you want to post this to YouTube, um, feel free. I don't know if you're still being active with channel, but
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I can post it. I'm not being active at all, to be honest, but it's just like a giving back to the chess community. So, um, all right, let's dive into this.
Pirc, which is very similar, but we'll have to talk about like the differences, which starts with d6.
Hmm.
You would, of course, play d4. And then after knight f6, it's a little bit different because black pretty much forces you to commit to knight c3.
Hmm.
Now, sometimes like the Pirc could transpose into modern, and we'll discuss like different like rotors where maybe you could go for some transpositions, but it's a slightly different. And then the last one, which I think you had a game against Konard, is kind of the old Indian,
Hmm.
which starts like a Pirc. It could also start like a Philidor, as far as I know. And essentially, black goes for knight b d7 and e5.
Hmm.
I think traditional Pirc would be g6.
Hmm.
So I think the first step is distinguishing these. I can make a comment here like okay, g6 is modern, but really 3g6 would be kind of the main Pirc, and knight
Yeah.
bd7 is old Indian. So I think for you it would be a matter of like looking at more, like we can look at more specific lines and choose what exactly to pursue. And I can give you recommendations based on what I play, but also based on what I've seen is effective against like lower level players.
Hmm.
Um, 'Cause I was trying to think about like your style because I remember like we've gone over like all these other openings, and maybe you can give input into this too. But
Hmm.
in terms of like what type of opening you're looking for, um, I was thinking like something aggressive, maybe slightly more offbeat,
Hmm.
um, but also maybe something just like really solid and hard to break. Is there any like specific type of like opening or type of position that you'd want to achieve?
Yeah, well, exactly what you said. I like the offbeat, unconventional openings that are like the sidelines of the sidelines. That's still very playable and like good, like good to like for both sides,
Gotcha.
but lines where like that I can like surprise most people.
Okay. Um, yeah, that'll probably fit well into a few options I'll show you. And I'll give you a choice of some different lines, and then we can pick what exactly to pursue.
Okay,
Um,
sounds good.
Now, maybe we can start with a modern,
Hmm.
just because I do want to give you a rule that if you play against this, I would not recommend playing against c4 or playing c4 as white.
Ah, okay.
The reason why is because you're essentially transposing into like a d4 opening, um, where like in d4 openings, usually white plays d4, c4 right away. And I think for you, it'd be more pleasant to like focus on development rather than getting the larger pawn center.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, I will say like playing, I've experimented with this like over the years as black, and I'm usually pretty happy when I see c4, because black can kind of divert to the usual structure, and white isn't as quickly to like create problems for black.
Yeah.
even though there's a nice space advantage. It's a more positional move.
Okay. So knight f3
Um,
or
so the line I recommend, and we can go to chapter 3 because I give just a very simple, straightforward recommendation.
hmm
Um, e4, g6, d4, bishop g7 is to play knight f3.
mm,
Um, and with the modern specifically, and this is actually a big difference between the modern and the Pirc, you can get away without playing knight c3 immediately. And we'll see why this makes a difference.
mm.
Um,
Okay.
you play knight f3, and the setup that I'll recommend for you is to play bishop c4 and queen e2.
Got it.
And the whole idea is to go for an early e5 push. And it's
Got it.
actually hard for black to like prevent this. Like most players will play d6, like typical modern
hmm
style. And here you can play bishop to c4 immediately. And this is something I actually discovered just a few months ago. I was playing in this, as you know, I played in this Australian tournament, and I had time to prepare for every game. And
hmm
one of my opponents like played the modern pretty religiously, like
Wow.
g6, d6 every game against everything. So I had a lot of time to like prepare different ideas. And ultimately, I chose this setup because I saw he had like no games in it. He had no experience with it, and
Wow.
it's different than other setups white can play, because a lot of other setups like white does its own thing and black does its own thing, and it's kind of a more kind of it's more about getting into the middle game and playing positionally. But in this line, after bishop c4 knight f6, white plays queen e2. White has an immediate idea of playing e5.
Mm.
Now it's not so easy to deal with. Um, and like going forward from here, I can show you the main line, but can show you like how the position can branch out. Because most often black will castle,
hmm
allowing e5. Now you do have to be careful whenever like going for this early e5 move. There's this whole concept of overextending,
hmm
where you're maybe going a little too deep into your opponent's territory. Um, in this specific position, it's completely fine because your queen supports e5 and the knight supports e5, and it's not easy for black to actually get enough attackers to exploit the pawn.
hmm
Um, now, I actually had this position in Australia. I'm trying to
Really?
remember. I'm pretty sure my opponent played knight e8. Should have brought the game in, but I'll have to try and find it. I will say knight e8 is just a really passive move. And now the problem is this knight is completely dominated by the pawn in e5. It's not a
Yeah.
great like positional situation
I'm
for
assuming
black.
you don't take on d6. You just leave it. Just leave tension there, right?
Yeah, just leave the tension.
Yeah.
Actually, a very typical move, and we'll see this move in multiple like types of positions.
Sure.
Like very positional move for white in this position. Actually, I'll let you try and like figure out how to proceed here.
Sure.
Guess I already gave you some clue, but yeah, what would you do as white?
So are you just asking what the next move is?
Yeah, what would you play? Like you mentioned like considering e takes d6, but of course you don't want to remove your pawn from e5. So
Oh,
what
I
else would you
see.
consider?
You just push e6 to put a clamp on that. Just make black's pieces cramped.
So e6 actually looks very tempting. As far as I can tell, e6 is probably a mistake. This would be a bit overextending. It
Yeah.
allows a move like f5, and now you have to worry about d5, and like now the knight can come back safely, and black's gonna like play around this pawn. And if you ever play d5, black has c6.
Got
Um,
it.
so this is a great. Be very, very
Oh,
careful.
hello? Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hello. Oh, I think I lost you for a quick sec. Might have been
Oh
my
yeah,
internet.
yeah.
Um,
I saw the reconnecting thing, but I think we're good now.
okay. Um,
So there's a question I want you to ask yourself here. So what does black want to do next move?
Black wants to develop his other pieces, like his knight
Yeah.
or his bishop, his light square
Mm-hmm.
bishop.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to do. I think so. Or play
So maybe what
d5,
specifically, like what specifically is black's next move?
maybe something like knight c6, or maybe something like d5.
Yeah, knight
Uh,
c6, d5.
maybe even e6 to like just stop white from advancing more. Or
Mm-hmm.
um, those are some of black's moves, I think. Would
Gotcha.
Am I on the right track?
Yeah, you actually didn't mention like the key move that black is going for. Uh, but this comes with experience, and like over time, you'll kind of develop more experience, like realizing like the stronger ideas from the opponent.
Oh,
Um,
wait, is it c5?
C5 is certainly one idea.
Okay, just
It's something you can deal with though. What black most likely wants to do here is play bishop g4 and try and cause you some grief with the queen and the knight. And in playing bishop g4, black can use the bishop to really try and take down your center.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
black uses the light square bishop to fight for the dark squares.
I saw that move, but what happens after h3? Like, I don't see a. Oh, I see.
Uh,
The
so
pawn hangs. Oh,
so black just wants to trade off the bishop and then somehow win the e5 pawn.
oh, I see. Okay, I didn't. I just thought, oh, bishop g4, h3. Like, you're not gonna go back to h5. So I just didn't. I just discounted that move. But I
Uh,
see his objective now, just to straight up win the pawn.
right, and it's something that like you could deal with if bishop g4 comes. You have moves to respond, but like a classic move for white to play in this position is actually h3.
H3. Ah, man.
I know it looks a little slow, but it's like very nice kind of prophylactic move because now this bishop has really no great developing square. Like e6 is basically off limits. f5 isn't the most harmonious type of thing, especially with the pawn on g6.
Mm-hmm.
And then g4 is now off limits.
Mm,
So like now the bishop and the knight on e8 are completely restricted.
got it.
Um, so it's an interesting sort of way to try and clamp down on black's position.
Okay.
And very often, like going forward from here, like just wants to castle, like play knight c3, and it's so much easier to play for white.
Got it. Okay. And we're not scared of d5, huh?
So yeah, this d5 move, you're actually probably happy to see. Like you can just move back to d3, and now that like there's no more pressure on your center, you just have a clear space advantage. This knight's ridiculous. Bishop still can't really develop usefully.
Yeah.
C5 can be met with c3. I would guess you want to go for some eventual like kingside attack, like maybe put the bishop. I mean, complete development first, like bishop g5, knight d2. Maybe eventually like queen e3 and go for bishop h6.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, it's already like such a nice position that
Mm-hmm.
that's not something to be worried about.
Okay. Nice.
So yeah, knight e8. I'll just make a comment here, like very passive. Um, the main move for black to play is to take. This is a bit more active. Then after it takes, black can play knight d5. Now the knight is a bit more centralized rather than being on the back rank.
Mm-hmm.
And now in this position, I won't make you like suffer or struggle this time, but white's just going to use the same idea we just saw, like play h3
Yep.
again. Like sometimes when you're playing an opening like this, it can be very powerful in first taking steps to preventing your opponent from what they want to do.
Mm.
This is very common when you have like more central control or more space. You just want to go for like the squeeze strategy.
Mm.
Now after h3, like the next several moves for white will be developing moves. Of course, you want the castle. You want to put a rook on d1. Usually, you want to go for like knight c3 and later develop the bishop. So I have a main line here, but the game can branch out like pretty substantially from here.
Sure.
Knight b6 is one of the main lines. I see actually, I'm also using the Lichess database just
Mm-hmm.
to get a sense of what people play like most often. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of players will play c6 here just to try and support the knight,
Okay.
which actually looks pretty natural. The issue for black is is having like very natural play, and black has less room to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So main line here is, okay, queen c7, perhaps trying to target the pawn. Now here, white's rook wants to be on e1,
Mm-hmm.
just to support the pawn once more. Black usually plays rook d8. And then, yeah, I'm trying to figure out like the best, or the recommendation in terms of developing here for white. Because this is already like somewhat of a lesser common position. But the most played move here, and it might be, so another like important idea to keep in mind, and it's another prophylactic move, is to play a4,
Mm-hmm.
trying to slow black down from playing b5.
Yeah. A lot of prophylaxis moves.
Yeah, just especially with pawns. Like pawns are very good at like just helping control certain squares that you don't want to give your opponent access to. If we notice, like after rook d8, black over defended the knight, so now b5 was a threat. I don't think b5 could have been played earlier because you can take and then win the b5 pawn with your queen.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Cool.
But if you like, honestly, these resulting middle games, it's not necessarily about like memorizing like specific amounts of theory. It's more about kind of understanding the style in which to play. And if you know through like queen e2 and e5, I think that would be like sufficient enough. That's only 5 moves to know. But then getting a sense of like how the middle game structure like transforms, um, and hopefully over time, like getting experience in this, and also seeing like higher level games to see how white can try and get the advantage early on.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get the prophylaxis moves, and I'm curious, like in the middle games, like is after all the prophylactic moves are gone, after we develop our pieces, I'm assuming we focus our attention on the king side.
Oh, sure. And maybe it will help to like actually see a game.
Yeah, I'll look at the game on my
Like
own
if we
time.
go to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like there's a couple of games in the Masters database. Okay, one game pops out. There's a pretty big rating differential. I can add it in a new chapter. Um, we'll decide whether to like paste it in this chapter, but for now, I'm adding it to chapter 8.
Okay, yeah,
And this is the exact same line we just saw. Maybe a slightly different move order. Black played c6 earlier, but and this is one of those things. The same ideas still apply. White still goes for e5, takes, get the structure with the pawn on e5. Again, we see h3, rook e1.
yeah. He played h3 after castle, so
Yeah, that's actually
Black had
true.
a chance. He had a chance.
Now I'm wondering, yeah, I'm actually wondering like maybe black should have played bishop g4 here.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with it. So this is maybe an improvement. Like if you were to get this position, I would recommend starting with h3.
Yeah.
Um, and you could look in the master's database, like especially when going through some of these openings, it's not a bad thing to have the master's database open,
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
get
of
a sense of like
course.
the moves and the scores.
Mm-hmm.
But h3 is the most played move with like a 50% win rate.
Cool. Very
So
cool.
yeah, to try and like address like what to do like after you play these prophylactic moves. Um, let's see how this game unfolds.
Okay.
Like white played pretty naturally. Knight c3, maybe it's a type of move some players would be scared to play. It allows black to take and double the pawns.
Hmm.
I don't think this is a huge issue because these pawns aren't really weak. Maybe the b file could be used to white's advantage.
Interesting.
Still
Yeah,
allows.
I wouldn't have played knight c3. I would have like
Uh-huh.
my pawns would have been doubled.
Yeah, I mean, knight d2 is also like, I mean, looks completely logical here. Like maybe going for knight d2, knight f1. Um, but I
Okay.
like
Ooh.
knight c3 because you want to like try and pressure this knight. Like it's black's best piece. If black trades it off, then like these pieces are a little bit stuck. It's not entirely clear
Mm.
what black is doing. And we can imagine like if black tries to develop like maybe the most natural looking move is knight d7. This just allows a monstrous move from white, which I do want you to find in this position because we addressed this move earlier where it wasn't that great, but now it's very strong.
Did I get
Yeah, pawn e6.
it?
Yeah, and like we can see, like black's position is just about to crumble. If takes, probably take with queen. And like this is almost mating, like knight g5. Oh, man.
Wow.
Threatening with modern mates. Let's say rook f8. What would you play here?
If rook f8?
Yeah,
Oh, you just smothered mate, right?
yeah, queen g8.
Yeah.
Um, it's an important idea because some players would like jump for knight f7, but yeah, queen g8 is possible because of your bishop.
Mm.
So yeah, I guess that's one thing you always want to like keep e6 in mind.
Hmm.
And sometimes like there's this idea that the threat is stronger than the execution. So the fact that e6 is looming in this position makes it very, very difficult for black to actually find a move
Sure.
because nothing can really access d7 for the time being, and black really doesn't want to play this. It'd be incredibly weakening to d6.
Mm.
And you can maybe start piling on like rook d1, maybe maneuver your knight. Um, this just looks like a very bad like positional game for black.
Yeah. I dig it. I like the pack where like you're not afraid to play knight c3.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not worried about double pawns in relation to black's activity. Like you're trading off. I should look at it as like not binary as like double pawns are bad generally, but that I'm trading off black's active piece for one of my pieces, which is not, that just came out. So that should
Yeah,
be.
that's actually a really good way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually one thing I try and ingrain with a lot of my students. Like a lot of students actually around your rating range,
Mm-hmm.
they see double pawns and like they cringe and they try and avoid them at all costs. But I try and make the point that most of the time, piece activity is way more valuable than pawn structure.
Mm.
And this can apply in a variety of scenarios. But like from my experience, stronger players value piece activity or initiative
Yeah.
over any sort of pawn structure.
Got it. Cool.
So yeah, so in this game, okay, black did not trade on c3, went for knight b6. Maybe we can zoom through at least the development. Like this bishop's very nice, eyeing the queen. Knight d5, okay, goes back, attacking the bishop. Bishop g3, very solid, keeping the tension between the knights. Now bishop e6, which is not the most like, it's a square for the bishop. It's probably like the best choice, but it's not the prettiest because in many cases, like a move like knight g5 will come. And like white will make some nice progress and the bishop will be hit.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually really like the way this game is unfolding. Like white managed to actually keep all the minor pieces on the board. Like the setup's very nice, very harmonious. Black's pieces are now a bit questionable,
Mm.
especially with this bishop. Now black played knight ac7. Oh wow. So maybe allowing white to get the bishop here. Here white played h4. Yeah, and sometimes when you have like a very nice control, like white already has like a very nice bind. Like position's so solid and white controls more space, then you want to look for ways to like try and break down the opponent's position, create weaknesses. So
Sure.
h5 looks like a clear break to attempt to do that. Also h6. Bishop goes away, and now h5. Yeah, this is very nice play from white.
Mm-hmm.
Because now there's a sweetness, and like this h pawn would like to move backward, but it's committed itself. Now black commits even further with g5. I'm just imagining like someday this bishop accessing this long diagonal.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm seeing the game ended in like 5 more moves.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide the move order. I want to try to
Yeah.
see, try to guess. Um, how to
Yeah,
continue?
actually, this is a really interesting position to guess. Unfortunately, I like already kind of saw the notation.
Oh, you saw it?
But,
Okay, I didn't see it yet. Um,
but yeah, white to move here, like how to proceed.
was that a blunder? Or I'm not sure.
And queen
Um,
b4, it's an interesting move, like aligned with the fourth rank.
yeah. If only the discovered check would work.
Mm-hmm.
Um. Oh, wait, no. The A pawn is guardian. I was gonna say B takes D5, and then knight F6.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, but
Um,
doesn't quite work.
I mean, I'm trying to find a way to break through. I mean, you don't push F4, you don't push C4. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
black has very good control over f4.
yeah, yeah. I think honestly, I would just play Rook A to D1, like, you know.
Yeah, just simple like normal move. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
What,
mean, this is
what should I be
actually
thinking
really
about?
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Oh, sorry. Well, what should I be thinking about here? You're gonna talk
So
about.
of course you want to look for like the immediate, like kind of forcing concrete moves like f4 or taking on g5, but none of that works. Like knight f6 doesn't work. So actually maybe along the you want to like find some improving move, some way to kind of build up the pressure, create some opportunities. Um, I think rook a d1 is like a very reasonable move to consider here. The move that white played, honestly, I don't know if it would come to my mind because it just looks so unusual, but it does have like a very clear idea. And it does involve improving one of the pieces. And you would think you want to improve the rook, because the rook is just doing nothing on a1.
Sure.
Rook a d1 looks so natural. But let me ask you, like, which other white piece is not really doing too much, at least currently?
Um, I guess the bishop on
Yeah,
G3
yeah, bishop on g3.
or
Sure. Actually, both bishops like
both
are
bishops.
not really doing too much.
Yeah.
It's a close position, to be fair. Um, I think what I'll do, I'll show you the move that white played, because I honestly I would have been very impressed if you found this move. It's like
Okay. So
it's
it
so
was a knight
unusual.
move.
Um, it's bishop to c4.
Wow.
It's so strange, but you take advantage of this tactic. Like, okay, black can't
Oh,
take because knight
I
six,
see.
and you want to access a better diagonal.
Ah, that's really impressive. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like
Wow.
it's so bizarre, but it's like there's this nice overlap between like the positional idea and using tactics to actually execute it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks odd because there's no like immediate checkmate after the bishop goes to D3, for example, but it's just improving the piece, which is the point.
Right. Yeah, just about improving.
Wow.
And now, okay, now black played this move, very maybe ambitious move, pawn b5.
Okay.
And this is where things actually get quite tactical, because now
Hmm.
there's a lot of like perhaps forcing lines to consider here.
Okay. I'm trying to find a way to trap the queen. I don't think that's possible. Um,
Hmm.
Hmm. Uh,
Oh, now my connection is unstable. You can still hear me though, right?
I can hear you. Yeah, I'm trying to just
Okay.
figure out this move. Is it something about bishop d3 and then queen f5? That no. Yeah, I don't know. I thought my tactics are pretty strong about this time.
Yeah, this is yeah, I mean this is maybe a more like more heavy sort of combination.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things like once you see it, it should make very clear sense. And there's a few things you have to realize. Like you still want to be aware of this like X-ray vision,
Yeah.
and you want to realize the fact that there's also some issue for black if the A file opens up.
Oh, you take the a pawn?
Okay,
Wait.
so you're saying A takes B5
Um, I
or
was
bishop takes B5.
thinking a takes b5, c takes b5,
Mm-hmm.
b takes d5, and then rook takes d5, and then rook a5, rook takes a5.
Oh man, you're actually very close. Rook takes A5 is just ridiculous. So is queen takes A5.
I know, but I'm trying to figure out the last part. So eight. So I'm close. A takes b5, c takes b5,
Mhm.
bishop takes d5, rook takes d5, and now I want to play knight f6 to get the queen, but it'll just be an exchange. So
Think again.
okay.
Wait. In exchange, meaning you're trading or meaning you're winning the exchange?
Oh, because the rook is not the both rooks. Oh, the rook got out the back rank. Wow.
So
So I
this rook
can't.
is overworked. It's like amazing. Like this is
Wow.
maybe the simple way to think about it. This rook
Yeah.
is doing too many jobs at once. But it's
Got
not only
it.
the rook, it's a pawn that's overworked too. Like the fact that the pawn and the rook are just defending like the two target squares, b5 and d5 and a8, I guess. Um, like it's amazing
Wow.
how black's position just crumbles. And like this X-ray vision along the fourth rank is pretty sweet.
Wow, it's crazy because because my mind, the way I thought about it was that, oh, if the queen takes the queen, like the a pawn is always going to take it back, so there's no ever like discovery on the queen. But there's a new discovery that I have to like open my mind to. It's like the rook on the a8 is like hanging,
Right.
which I
Yeah.
haven't,
Which
yeah,
is
thought
not
about.
easy to see. Yeah, it takes some level of like board vision and like you have to visualize very clearly uh, to see what's going on.
Wow, that's impressive.
But yeah, I mean the variation flows very nicely. It takes, and then knight f6 and white wins material. Um, and it's funny you said like that's just an exchange. I think. And I thought I wasn't sure if you were referring to like winning the exchange, which white is doing, like takes,
Yeah,
and white's up the exchange.
yeah, that would be cool. I thought I just trading queens is not what I want to do, so I just cancel that out as even a candidate move.
Yeah, it's important not to reject things too early, especially in these like kind of complex tactical situations.
Wow, that's impressive. But
So
what a pretty like flowing like easy middle game for white.
yeah, I mean bishop c4 wasn't the easiest. Maybe this is the most difficult move, but everything beyond that, or apart from that, was quite nice. Like very kind of natural, kind of Karpovian type play, where
Yeah.
like you squeeze the opponent, then you just keep improving, look for weaknesses. Now the game ended like black played b5. I think b5 was a blunder.
Hmm.
Um, then black realized the issue and played king f8.
Hmm.
And then I'll just show you the rest of the game. Now white actually succeeded, I believe, in trapping the queen. There's some nice finish here, pawn b3. Now defending the bishop.
And preparing to play C3.
So preparing to play
Wow.
c3 exactly, yeah.
How
So
cunning
takes.
is that? Oh my god.
And then but actually see, so you have to still execute correctly because you have to realize c3,
Oh,
there's
knight
knight takes
C3,
b3, right?
right? Hmm.
So again, this is where tactics come into play. Um, I will say, okay, c3 is a winning move. Most forcing.
Sure.
Black takes. Now it requires some. It's still like a messy position. Um, you have to find like some concrete calculation here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I flipped the thing. I saw the last move.
Oh, you saw the okay. So bishop takes e6. That's
Unfortunately, I
fine.
thought it was over. I thought the tactics
No
were over.
worries. Yeah, so I guess it's important to like acknowledge, like it's funny, like the king moved away from f8 to get out of like the knight of 6 check, but walked into a different type of tactic with
Yeah,
queen f.
that's pretty impressive. I think I wouldn't have saw that like right away in blitz, like b takes e6.
Yeah, it's not an
Pretty
easy
good.
line to spot like right away, but maybe in a slower time control where you have time to really investigate the different ideas and you can come across it.
Yeah.
So that was a nice game. Like that's one thing. It's interesting how these lessons go, where like sometimes we'll find a game and just get really into it.
Mm.
Um, so and something like you should be doing on your own time too, especially in any opening you study. I know I've mentioned this before, but finding games that you can like draw inspiration from, take away new ideas from.
Yeah.
So
Got
if
it.
yeah, we should take some time to look at the other. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah. Let's definitely look at the Pirc's defense.
Yeah, because the Pirc is one thing you can't
Play knight f3, right?
you can't go for the same line, unfortunately, even though you'd like to. After e4, d6, essentially you have to commit to knight c3.
Got it.
So it'll be a um, different position almost entirely. And I have a few recommendations.
Hmm.
I was trying to think. I can give you like a very simple recommendation, which just involves like attacking, and it's a very reputable line too. It's one of the reasons why the Pirc is not the most popular thing to play
Oh, really?
these days.
Okay.
Maybe we can start with that.
Sure.
Let me promote this. I have a few different move orders here. Let me delete this other
Okay.
variation.
I,
Um,
I'm hiding the moves just so I can like not cheat.
oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, all of this I'll probably just go ahead and show you, but
Yeah.
it's just important to internalize what's going on. Okay, so black plays g6, and this is a variation where you have multiple like different options. And there's so many moves for white to play here. Like there's f4, which is a so-called Austrian attack. There's knight f3. There's g3, which Karpov has used from time to time. The variation that I'll show you, I actually don't know if it has a name. It probably does. It starts with f3.
Whoa.
And the idea is to like execute a very quick bishop e3, queen d2, queenside castle, and then go for bishop h6 and storm with your pawns.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's very simple.
And it's a very simple way of playing. I showed this to another student around your same level,
Hmm.
and I actually showed it to them before I like fully like knew all the theory here. It was actually very easy, natural.
Hmm.
Um, and, because I'm a London, so sometimes what I'll do, I'll play like knight f6, then I'll play knight c3. I do this to a lot of like opponents online. And if they play bishop to g7, then I'll play e4, and essentially I trick them into a Pirc. Like they tried to play the King's Indian, but I'll have a Pirc with like very similar ideas. Now, we'll say for you, you don't
Ah,
have to worry about that move later
yeah.
because like it is better for your bishop to be on e3.
Hmm.
But very often it will still transpose, like you'll still go for bishop h6 and carry through with these kingside attacks.
Yeah. I can also
So the
imagine you
first,
can transpose to like a accelerated dragon kind of setup.
possibly, yeah. Like if black plays c5,
Yeah.
The problem though for black is that c5 usually doesn't work
Oh,
because
because
you
you
take
take.
it. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So in c5, let me see if does it work any. Oops, let me delete this because that won't apply to you. Yeah, I don't think c5 like ever works for black, at
Okay.
least in the near future. Like maybe black will go for knight d7, c5. But
Sure. Okay. My bad. I don't want to detract. Um,
yeah, it's no problem. Like it's always good to like ask yourself how black can maybe challenge you right away.
mhm.
But like for this line, we can just look at like the most natural moves. Like let's say black castles, you play queen d2.
Mhm.
Now white's plan is very clear, and black's plan on the other hand isn't so obvious. Like I think most players here will play c6. Going now for you, and I know we like from the previous game that we looked at, the prophylactic move a4 was something to at least consider.
Mhm.
In this line, you'll take a completely different approach. You'll just allow black to carry through with their pawn storm, and you should queenside castle.
Yeah, because you're gonna pawn storm yourself, huh?
Yes, but there's a few like important ideas to know, and I think they're pretty straightforward. Like once you see them, let's say black plays b5, because you have to like kind of acknowledge that black wants to like destroy you as well, and you have to be a little bit accurate.
Mhm.
Here you can waste no time. You play bishop h6. And now let's say, so in this variation I have b4. Now let's say black plays b4. How would you react? And I actually kind of want to play this out.
Sure. Yeah.
I know your moves are hidden, so I want to see if you can like play the whole or the rest of the variation that I have.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Um, I'm assuming I just go back, not to B1, but like to E2, even though it looks bad. Or I can go to knight A4 and play B3, which
mhm.
could just stop black. Actually, that might not be a bad idea. Um,
I will
yeah.
say knight a4 is probably not what you want to do at all. It looks maybe pleasant at first, but it's giving black actually some opportunity to get a ton of initiative. Like black can start in a5 now.
And then like
If you play
BD7.
b3, then there's like e7,
Okay, okay.
and then you just have so many weaknesses, and that's one way to go wrong.
Okay. I'm bringing my knight
Uh,
back to E2.
so knight e2, best move.
Okay.
I know it looks ugly because like your pieces are now blocked in. But it's one of these like rare variations in chess where you develop your whole queen side before you really touch anything on the king side.
Okay.
And one idea with knight e2, very important to keep in mind, very often if black gets some attack, you'll have king b1, knight c1,
Hmm.
and you'll just be super solid. Like if queen a5 here, this king
King
b1.
B1. Yeah.
If bishop e6, threatening mate, knight c1. So you do take time to actually like defend. Um, but once you get the setup, it's so hard for black to break through.
Got it.
And it's actually so straightforward for you now. And it's not an easy position for black to play.
Hmm.
So I want to go back and just show you maybe an even more straightforward variation.
Sure.
Let's say black plays a5. Trying to scare you, throwing pawns. What would you do here?
My gut instinct is to play King B1. Um, my second gut instinct is just to fight back and just play G4. Uh,
Okay,
or even just trade the bishops first and then play G4.
gotcha. Yeah,
Um,
it's actually really interesting to hear because I know you have almost no experience playing this line. So there's certain things that you were saying that you would not say if you had like some level of experience. Um,
As you can see, I'm clueless.
okay, but I'm glad you're considering options like king b1, g4. These are two like very thematic moves. There's one more like very thematic move that you have not mentioned.
Oh, e5?
E5, sometimes you can play, probably not right now because you don't want to like trade queens along the d file.
Another thematic move? It's not H. Like, is it a pawn move?
Yeah,
H4? H4?
h4. Yeah, h4, h5 is like usually the way that you'll break down and destroy black.
Oh, interesting. I thought you would start with G4 first, but H4 first. Okay.
So, and this is one important thing to like understand about playing this position is time is very important. You don't want to waste time on things which aren't necessary.
Like King B1
So like King B1, it's a normal move, not a bad move, but there's no reason to play it. Like
right now.
there were no threats from black. Now there are other cases where actually King B1 can be playable if your attack isn't so fast.
Mm.
But in this position, um, you want to focus on attacking. I know G4 looks nice. You do have the idea of H4, H5, but there's actually no reason to play G4. Just starting with H4 um, is good enough. And in many cases, you'll play H5 without needing to play G4.
Got it.
So let's imagine black plays A4.
Yeah.
What to do? I kind of already told you, but I'd
Just
like to
play
know.
H5?
Just H5, yeah.
Wow. And they play B3. Oh, no, that would be horrible, right? Because the H file gets open?
We
No.
could look at B3. So black maybe has a few options here. Um, I mean, it's horrible regardless of what black does. Horrible for black, I should say.
Yeah.
Because white's attack is already like in full swing.
Yeah.
And the H file is guaranteed to open. And now if knight takes H5, I want you to think here for white and just find simple continuation.
Uh, Rook H5, GH5, Queen G5?
Very nice. Yeah, takes, queen G5 and game over.
Hmm.
So let's imagine like B3. Also, sorry for the background noise. I'll be right back and close the door.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but let's say B3, white to move.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I feel like King B1, and if B takes A2, then just King A1. Just sit pretty, no threats, use the pawn as a shield.
Yeah, I think you have the right intention. Like you just want to like consolidate, simplify. Um,
Yeah. Do you play A3 and just let black take on C2? And
yeah, there's a few different approaches here. The main goal is just to close down lines and make sure your king is safe. Make sure black can't grab too much initiative.
mm-hmm.
And here you actually have like a nice sort of mechanism. Like, of course, you don't want to take with a pawn because that opens a file.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep the a file closed. So I know it looks counterintuitive, but I think one of the best moves is taking with the c pawn.
Yeah. And then playing A3?
And then going for a3, and then the position is completely locked down here. Your king is still very safe. The rook can't get in. And now black still has a lot to worry about on the king side.
I dig
And
it.
even your knight could come back to c3 in many cases.
Yeah. Just like looking at the position is usually not a good thing to have a king on open file, but in this position,
Yeah.
like there's no threats at all. And it
Yeah,
actually is
I
safe.
know like it's maybe unsettling with a b3 pawn in your face, but like knight c3, king b1 if necessary. Um, and meanwhile, like this whole setup on the king side is pretty lethal.
Hmm. And it seems like you never exchange the bishop yourself. You just kind of leave it there.
Yeah, so you're threatening here, like if black does nothing, you want to take on g7, take on g6, and play queen h6.
Yeah.
Let's imagine, like we could continue here. Let's imagine black plays queen a5, like trying to trade queens.
Okay.
What to do?
I would avoid trading queen, so either moving the queen or play knight c3. Maybe even just queen g.
Mhm.
No, I can't play queen g5 because of the queen trade. Um. Oh, if I play knight c3, then I guess knight takes h5 as a threat.
Yeah, so this is something to look at. Knight c3 is actually, oops, knight c3. What did I just do? Queen a5. Ah, there we go. Um, so knight takes h5 is a move you can allow
Okay.
because you're not concerned about losing a pawn. More you're more concerned about just opening the h file. Now
Oh,
the h file is
so
half.
got it. So b takes g7, king takes g7, g4.
Very good. Yeah, takes. Even if knight takes, you'll have queen h6.
Yeah.
King takes g4. Black's just dead. This
Hmm.
is a very typical way that like an attack will finish. Like, let's
Hmm.
say knight f6, queen h6 check, king g8. Now maybe it still takes a little bit of work because in this position, like you would really like to play e5, but the queen helps control e5.
Yeah.
Um, so perhaps it takes a little bit of like attacking technique.
You
I
know
will
what?
say there's probably countless ideas to win here as white.
Yeah, a crazy move. I just thinking from imagination in chess is bishop. Oh, is it time? Wait, give me 1 sec. Sorry.
Oh, go for it.
Ooh. Hi, hello. Hi. Sorry about that. I lost track of time.
That's all right. No problem.
Okay,
Do you mind swapping?
Thank you.
no problem.
Sure.
Ooh, sorry about that.
Hey, no
No problem.
Um,
If you
so
have to wrap things up, there's no worries. But I'm also free to stick around if you want to go for
yeah,
another like 5-10 minutes.
yeah. Let's continue this because I still
Okay,
want to keep going. I just had to
yeah,
leave
sure.
the meeting room.
Gotcha.
But okay. I was thinking just in the spirit of imagination in chess to play bishop to b5 to block the queen from from entering on e5 and then playing g5 ourselves. Oh,
Hello.
hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry. I was thinking we can play bishop to b5 so that the
Oh,
the queen is like blocked away from the scope of taking on e5.
that's actually kind of fascinating. Bishop b5. Um, and then after it takes, you want to play e5. Wow.
Exactly. Well, just I'm thinking in like the reciproc. What is it called?
Reciprocal thinking.
Reciprocal thinking. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like remove the problem, like remove the queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe by that logic, you could also think about knight d5.
Oh wow. Would
The
that be
one problem I'm seeing with both of these ideas, that
sure?
black can grab the piece, and then
Yeah.
after e5, there's knight d7, and it
Oh.
might just be a trade.
Okay. You give the piece back. Okay. I was just got excited for a quick sec.
Uh-huh. And honestly, I don't know if this is a position we want to spend too much time on because I mean, there's so many different ways.
Yeah.
Uh,
We can
to carry
continue for sure.
Sorry.
We can continue and move on for
Oh
sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just give you like a few ideas, like knight h3, one idea to go for knight g5, win h7. Black can't stop this.
Yeah.
Another idea is knight e2, to play like g5, knight h5, knight g3, also crush it,
Mm-hmm.
or knight g3 and then g5. Um, and like white has so much time, and black's just basically just paralyzed.
Mm.
So this is a great kind of a great attacking sequence, like starting with like bishop e3, queen d2. I would encourage you to find games where white goes for this sort of line.
Sure. Yeah.
And you'll see like even like this is a pretty typical position after queen d2.
Sorry, are you moving the board? I don't see it on my lead chess.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Is your sync in?
That's strange. Sync is in order. Maybe refresh.
Okay, I'll
Maybe
refresh my page. Yeah, I'm in a co-working space. Usually the Wi-Fi is very good, so maybe today was just off day. Okay, I see it now.
Or it could be the combination of our like my Wi-Fi too could be a little bit off.
Okay.
But yeah, I would encourage you to like look in the master's database from this position.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of the main position where things can start branching out.
Yeah.
And
C6, E5, knight C6.
knight C6 has a very unusually like high score.
Yeah.
So if you'd like to start developing a repertoire, maybe knight C6 is a move to look into.
To battle.
I would assume the same ideas apply, like go for a queenside castling, go for bishop h6. Looks like the idea for black here is to play e5.
Mm-hmm.
But even starting, like rather than starting by going through the lines, just starting by looking at games, I think would be kind of a good starting point in terms of accumulating ideas and then building a repertoire around that, or building kind of experience around that.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. Sounds good.
So I'm excited like for this sort of just simple approach, because at least with both lines we looked at so far, it's just a matter of like knowing the right move order early on, and then it's just a matter of understanding the kind of resulting middle game ideas.
Got it. Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm actually gonna use this, and I'm excited to.
Yeah, I'll probably like if I start encountering the Pirc or modern, like these are lines that I incorporate into my own play as well. So
Got it.
now the one line that we didn't take a look at yet, and I can at least give you some quick recommendation, is this Old England in chapter 5. And I was actually debating, the line in this chapter is not the only line I can recommend. It's probably the most solid line. But if you want something like really crazy and offbeat, but also like playable, there's a move coming up here.
Okay.
So after e5, actually, I think I saved it as a sub-variation to your game. I'll just input it here. I'd be surprised if you've seen this move before. The move is g4 here.
Wow.
And in this specific position, it's a really interesting idea, just to like sack a pawn and open the g file and try and like slow down black's development. And black's pretty much obliged to take. Like if black doesn't take it, then g5's coming. If black plays h6, you play rook g1 with like still ideas of g5 or even h4 g5. So this is one line. Like if you want to be really creative and crazy, then it's definitely something to look into. And it's one of those things, like if you're playing against someone who plays this opening as black, they're usually looking to just get like a solid structure where they can carry through with their own ideas. But then if you play g4, it kind of it changes the whole dynamic of the game.
Yeah.
It's attempting to get them out of their comfort zone.
I'm already in. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just study this line.
Okay, that's nice to hear. And you can check in the master's database, like White has a decent score. I will say that the computer is not so fond of this line, but I haven't found a way that White is like so much worse. Like it's always complicated.
Sure.
The best approach for black is to take on g4 and make this the main line. You can play rook g1 here. And here the position can branch out a little bit. Black has this move, pawn takes pawn. Or the main move is knight f6. But I know that at least like if pawn takes pawn, you're happy to take, and like you want to open the center. You want to kick around the knights.
Yeah.
there's a move here, knight d e5. But then I think you can play, oh yeah, just h3, knight f6, and then f4.
Oh
You
my
just start taking
gosh.
knights, gain space. Like the g file is still very nice for you. Your bishops will develop naturally.
Wow. That's pretty killer.
So yeah, it's nice to get a position like this, which isn't like a slow grind. So the main line is knight f6.
Hmm.
Then you have a very simple move here, but comes with a very strong threat. Is bishop c4.
Hmm.
And the
Threat
threat is simply knight
knight
g5.
g5, yeah.
Like, how does black defend against the threat of knight g5?
Yeah, you had to give up the G pawn yourself, maybe.
Yeah, so bishop e7 is just terrible because rook takes g7. You're still succeeding in probably winning f7.
Hmm.
So there's actually only one move here, as far as I can see.
Knight b6?
Oh, maybe knight b6 is playable too. Actually, knight b6 is probably playable.
What was the move that
I was
you
thinking
had?
h6.
Oh, I see.
You know what? Knight b6. There's an incredible move here for white,
Incredible?
and we're stumbling into some like lesser known territory because there's
Sure.
not been too many games with knight b6.
Wait, don't tell me.
Okay.
Um, wait. Is it you take on e5?
Certainly a candidate move.
Um, so bf7, king f7, d takes e5?
Yeah. This is I will say, like I just used the computer to check this, and computer loves this for white,
Wow.
saying like +1. Now I'm sure it requires further analysis. Okay, you're taking advantage of the fact that the pawn is pinned on the d file. This knight has to move. Maybe black just wants to get back to knight. Black holds on to the knight. I mean, there's knight
g5.
g4
Oh.
or knight g8. There may be a few moves knight e8 also possible.
Hmm.
But white just has such a strong attack, especially with open g file. So much initiative, like knight g5,
Hmm.
king g8. Now knight d5.
Oh my
You
god.
want to get the queen to d5 and just mate. So you're threatening knight takes b6 and queen d5.
Wow.
And the fact that you're controlling these squares with a knight, actually looks really difficult for black to defend. There's tactics too. Like if pawn takes pawn, you have knight f, or no, you don't have knight f6. Pawn takes pawn.
Yeah, what if knight f6 now? Oh, no, you can't. Sorry, the pawn is there.
Oh yeah, black can't access that square. Maybe this is the best move. Because you don't have any like immediate tactics, but I mean you have queen f3 and it still looks like a very difficult position for black.
Yeah. Then knight f6 now, I think. And
So knight f6, but there's queen b3 ideas. So for example, like knight f6,
yeah.
you can take in queen b3.
Oh, that's nasty.
So yeah, black has to watch out getting mated on f7, but also just getting mated along the diagonal.
Mm.
So this is of course something to analyze maybe in your own time. Like the lines can get very crazy. And this is a lesser common variation.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into it. G4.
But yeah, it's nice to be aware of this. Like G4 it's a type of move that maybe it's not easy to discover on your own, because when you look at like at least really top level games, not too many players are playing this. But there's still like a good amount of grandmasters who've used the G4 move.
Oh, wow. Did it name it after Shirov? It says a Shirov gambit.
Ah, I guess.
Because
Yeah, I guess.
Shiro have played G4 in a couple of different lines in like many other openings,
Yeah,
right?
he's played G4 in the semi-Slav,
Oh, I see.
which I think it's named either for him or Shabalov. Um, yeah, so maybe look at the Shirov games.
Okay,
Shirov gambits.
cool, awesome. I'm excited, and now I have a plan against all these different things. At least some substance.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to at least now have a starting point. And all of these lines are still like pretty new for you, but like over time, I mean, even if you just like keep playing Blitz online,
Yeah,
and try and implement these openings when you get a chance, it'll be good to perhaps get experience and see where things need to be improved and see what you need to look into a bit deeper.
yeah, very cool. Thanks, Eric. This is awesome.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's been fun for me, like going through these lines too, because honestly, like even at my level, I'm not studying these lines on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Like the last time I looked at like theory in the modern was when I was in Australia. So it's been a while, and it's always nice to like kind of go back and look at the lines in more depth.
Yeah, cool. I'm glad to hear that, and I also you might like this because I want to work with you again to go against the Alekhine defense.
Wait, what's that?
I want to work with you again, maybe like next week or something.
Against Alekhine, yeah.
Alekhine. Yeah, I just never studied any of this stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like there's a certain category of openings, like the Pirc, modern, Alekhine, and like Scandinavian. Like they're the lesser common lines, which are they attempt to like keep things simple for black, but there are ways to meet them as
Mhm.
white.
For
So
sure.
yeah, I'd be happy to go over some stuff.
Okay, fantastic.
I had one question for you actually, which maybe you would hopefully know something about.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm spending a week in San Francisco, and I'm looking for a